You do everything the magazines tell you. You buy the premium raised bed soil. You pick up transplants from the garden center with the prettiest labels. You invest in drip irrigation, fertilizer on a schedule, and the latest organic pest spray. And by August, your garden looks tired. The tomatoes have blossom end rot. The squash is covered in powdery mildew. Your pepper plants produced maybe a dozen fruits between them, and you are quietly wondering if it is even worth the effort anymore. Now picture this. 30 miles down the road, an Amish family is pulling produce out of the same soil, in the same climate, under the same sun. No drip irrigation, no purchased fertilizer, no pest sprays of any kind. And their garden looks like it belongs in a magazine. Tomato plants bent under the weight of fruit, squash vines running thick and green into September. More food than one family can eat. Same region, same weather, completely different results. So what do they know that the rest of us forgot? I've been asking myself that question for a long time. Over 50 years of gardening experience and a master gardener certification, and for most of those years, I believed the answer to every garden problem came in a bag or a bottle. More fertilizer, better soil mix, newer varieties. Those things helped. But they never got me where I wanted to be. The turning point came about 12 years ago on an Amish homestead outside Lancaster, Pennsylvania. A woman named Ruth, probably in her early 70s, walked me through her kitchen garden. Maybe a quarter acre, nothing enormous, but the abundance coming out of that ground was unlike anything I had seen in decades of visiting demonstration gardens across the country. I asked her my usual question, "What is your secret?" She laughed, not unkindly, and said something I have thought about almost every day since. "There is no secret. We just never stopped doing what works." That sentence broke something open for me. The modern gardening world had spent 50 years chasing new solutions to problems we created by abandoning old ones. And the Amish, by simply continuing what their grandparents taught them, had quietly outpaced all of us. The Amish approach to gardening is not built on any single trick or technique. It is built on a philosophy, proven tradition over modern convenience. They do not chase the newest seed variety or the latest soil amendment. They invest in systems that compound over decades. They trust patience over speed, observation over intervention, and living soil over synthetic inputs. Now, every Amish community is a little different. What Ruth does in Lancaster County is not identical to what an Amish family practices in Holmes County, Ohio, or up in northern Indiana, but the underlying principles are remarkably consistent, and the results speak for themselves. This is not about rejecting everything modern gardening has taught you. You have real knowledge and real experience. What I am offering here is the framework underneath it all, the foundation that makes everything else work better. 4 principles the Amish have followed for generations that explain why their gardens consistently outperform ours. This is where it all starts, and it is where modern gardening went wrong first. Most of us treat soil like a container. We fill it with a mix, add fertilizer, grow a crop, and repeat. When the soil gets tired, we add more product. We are feeding plants. The Amish are feeding soil. That difference sounds subtle, but it changes everything. On Ruth's farm, the soil in her garden was so dark it was almost black. When I pushed my hand into it, it was loose, moist, and full of earthworms. It smelled like a forest floor after rain. That soil was not purchased. It was built layer by layer, year after year, for generations. Her grandmother worked that same ground. Her mother after that, and Ruth after her. Here's what they do. Every fall, after the garden is cleared, they spread a thick layer of aged animal manure and compost, 3 to 4 inches deep, right on top of the beds. They do not till it in aggressively. They let it sit over winter, let the freeze and thaw cycles break it down, and let the earthworms and soil biology incorporate it naturally. In spring, they add another thin layer, maybe an inch, as a top dressing before planting. Some families also plant cover crops like crimson clover or winter rye in beds that will not be used until late spring. Those cover crops hold the soil in place over winter, fix nitrogen, and add organic matter when they are cut down and turned under. The science behind this is well documented. Soil rich in organic matter holds moisture better, drains more efficiently, supports a thriving microbial community, and produces plants with stronger root systems and natural disease resistance. University extension research consistently shows that plants grown in biologically active soil suffer significantly less pest and disease pressure than plants grown in depleted or synthetically fed soil. Your starting point is this. This fall, get your hands on as much aged compost or well-rotted manure as you can. Spread 3 inches across every bed. Do not overthink it. Do not till it into oblivion. Just let it sit and let biology do the work. If you can source a winter cover crop seed like crimson clover, scatter it over any empty beds at a rate of about 1/4 pound per 100 square feet. By next spring, you will already feel the difference when you push your hands into that soil. One honest caveat. The Amish have been building their soil for generations. You are starting now, and that is okay. The first year is good. The second year is noticeably better. By the third year, you will have soil that performs in a way that no bag of anything from a store can replicate. Step 2. Seeds that know your land. This is the piece that surprised me most, and it might be the biggest advantage the Amish have over every modern gardener in the country. They save their own seeds, and they have been saving them, in many cases, for generations. Here is why that matters. When you buy seeds from a catalog or a rack at the hardware store, those seeds were bred for broad performance. They need to grow reasonably well in Maine and Florida and Kansas and Oregon. They are generalists. They are fine, but they are not exceptional in any particular place. When an Amish family saves seeds from their best performing plants, year after year, decade after decade, something remarkable happens. Those seeds adapt. They become locally tuned to that specific soil, that specific microclimate, that specific pest pressure. The tomato seed Ruth handed me came from a line her family had been growing for over 40 years. 40 years of natural selection in that exact ground, that exact valley, that exact latitude. Those plants knew her land in a way no catalog seed ever could. You do not need 40 years to start benefiting from this. Here's how to begin. This season, identify your 2 or 3 best performing plants. Not your biggest necessarily, your healthiest. The ones that resisted disease, set fruit early, and kept producing. Let a few of their best fruits fully ripen on the vine, then save those seeds. For tomatoes, scoop the seeds into a jar with a little water, let them ferment for 3 days at room temperature. Then rinse and dry them on a paper towel. For peppers, simply scrape the seeds from a fully ripe fruit and dry them. For beans and peas, let the pods dry completely on the plant before harvesting. One critical detail. This only works reliably with open-pollinated and heirloom varieties, not hybrids. Hybrid seeds, the ones labeled F1 on the packet, will not breed true. Their offspring will be unpredictable. Stick with heirloom and open-pollinated varieties, and you have seeds that will improve year after year in your specific garden. The Amish have quietly created some of the most locally adapted seed lines in North America without a laboratory, without a breeding program, and without a catalog. Just patience, observation, and the discipline to keep saving what works. Even university plant breeders acknowledge that farmer-saved seed lines often outperform commercial varieties in the specific regions where they were developed. The Amish figured this out generations ago. Here's something Ruth told me that I initially dismissed and later realized was maybe the most important thing she said all afternoon. She said, "I walk the garden every morning before I do anything else." I nodded politely, thinking, sure, that is nice. I check on my garden too. But what she described was fundamentally different from what I was doing. Ruth does not walk her garden to admire it, she walks it to listen to it. Every morning, before breakfast, she moves slowly through every row. She's looking at the underside of leaves. She is checking the color of new growth. She is feeling the soil moisture with her fingers. She is noticing which plants look slightly off, which leaves have a spot that was not there yesterday, which stems are not standing as straight as they were. This is not casual observation. This is diagnostics, and it is the Amish version of pest and disease management. By the time most modern gardeners notice a problem, it is a full-blown infestation, or a disease that has spread through half the bed. By the time Ruth notices a problem, it is 3 aphids on 1 leaf. She pinches them off with her fingers and moves on. Problem solved before it ever became a problem. There is real science behind this approach. Integrated pest management, the framework used by agricultural universities and extension offices across the country, identifies early detection as the single most effective tool in pest and disease control. Catching something in the first 48 hours versus the first 2 weeks is often the difference between losing a leaf and losing a crop. Your version of this does not need to take long. 10 minutes every morning, walk every row, look under leaves, touch the soil, notice what changed since yesterday. Bring a cup of coffee if you want, but make it a daily practice, not an occasional visit. I started doing this about 10 years ago, and it transformed my gardening more than any product or technique I have ever tried. Problems that used to blindside me in July I now catch in late May when they are still manageable by hand. I cannot overstate how powerful this simple habit is. This is the hardest one for modern gardeners, myself included. We want results now. We want fruit by June. We want the pest gone by tomorrow morning. And when nature does not cooperate, we reach for a shortcut. The Amish do not reach for shortcuts, not because they are stubborn, but because they have seen, over generations, what shortcuts cost. Synthetic fertilizer pushes fast growth but weakens cell structure, making plants more vulnerable to pests. Chemical sprays kill the problem today, but destroy the beneficial insects that would have prevented the problem next month. Aggressive tilling breaks up soil quickly, but destroys fungal networks that take years to rebuild. The Amish approach requires trusting that the compost you spread last fall is working underground, even when you cannot see it. It requires watching a few aphids on your kale and believing the ladybugs will arrive. It requires accepting that your first season using these methods will not be your best, and that is exactly how it is supposed to work. Ruth said something else I carry with me. The English always want to fix the garden. We just want to grow with it. In Amish communities, non-Amish people are often called English, and she was not being unkind. She was describing a real difference in philosophy. Fixing implies something is broken. Growing implies you are part of the system. When you stop fighting your garden and start working with it, something shifts. You stop seeing pests as enemies and start seeing them as information. You stop treating soil as a container and start treating it as a partner. You stop measuring success by this week's harvest and start measuring it by how much better everything gets, season over season. Year 1, you start composting seriously. Save seeds from your best plants, begin your daily walks, and resist the urge to spray. Your garden performs about the same as usual. You wonder if it is worth the effort. Year 2, your soil is visibly darker and holds moisture longer. Your saved seeds germinate strong and establish faster than catalog varieties. Your daily walks catch problems before they spread. You do not spray once all season. Year 3, people start asking what you are doing differently. Your soil is alive with earthworms. You have seeds genuinely adapted to your garden. And you realize you have not bought a bottle of anything in 3 years. That is the compounding effect. The Amish have been riding for generations. Slow, patient, and unstoppable once it gets rolling. Now, I want to be straightforward about where this approach has limits. If your soil is severely compacted clay or pure sand, the first year of composting alone will not transform it. You are building, and building takes time. If you are in a region with extreme pest pressure, zones 9 and above with year-round growing seasons, you may need to be more aggressive with companion planting and cover cropping than what I have described here. And if you are dealing with a crisis right now, a tomato hornworm invasion or a blight outbreak, handle it. Then start building this system for next season. Remember that tired August garden from the beginning? The blossom end rot, the mildew, the underperforming peppers? That was my garden for 20 years. And 30 miles down the road, Ruth was pulling armloads of produce out of soil her grandmother built, from seeds her mother saved, using nothing but compost, observation, and time. The difference was never about talent or luck or some trick I had not found yet. The difference was philosophy. She was growing with her garden. I was fighting mine. So here is my challenge to you. Pick one of these 4 principles and commit to it this season. Build your soil with real compost this fall. Save seeds from your 3 best plants. Walk your garden every single morning for 10 minutes. Or put down the spray bottle and let the ecosystem do its job. You will not see a miracle overnight. The Amish never promised miracles. They promised something better. Results that last. Results that get stronger every year. Results that you can hand down to your children and your grandchildren, the same way Ruth's grandmother handed them down to her. And that, when you really think about it, is why their gardens outperform ours. Not because they know something we do not, but because they never stopped doing what works.